Oh my gosh, we're back. We're back.
Well,
I can hardly keep up with you. I'm so glad we're doing this more often. I've got
so,
my map out every couple of days. You're moving fast.
Well, good morning from us and good evening to you. We're in
Yes,
Sri
thank you.
Lanka and we're like 12 and a half or 11 and a half hours ahead of you.
yeah,
So hello again from tomorrow.
yes, Nancy, we have so many stories to tell you about Indonesia. And it was a month there. So sometimes we move fast. Other times I think we kick back, right?
Right, but we thought we would just start with a little map of Indonesia for those people listening that are like getting it confused with Malaysia
They're watching too. They're
or,
not just listening.
yeah, so I'm going to share my screen.
So it's all about visuals. As the teacher in me, you just gotta give them a picture, Nancy,
So
Yes.
right?
So Indonesia is northwest of Australia, and it's a series of, it's an archipelago country that has, it's unbelievable, but it's made up of officially 17,000 islands.
Can you see where they are?
Yeah, so that's all the red.
There
And
we
what
go.
we're going to talk to you about today is that we went to the island of Bali and the island of Java, which are these two islands right here. And these are just two of the islands that we went to. So Java's on the left and Bali's the tiny little island there on the right of it. And
Yes.
I tell you a story about crossing over from Bali onto Java, and we traveled all the way across from the east to the west of Java. So we arrived in Denpasar, Bali, and we left from Jakarta all the way over here. And we left from Jakarta.
Well, you know, I was telling Paul last night when we were in the pool that we could actually spend an hour on each of those islands. The stories
Yeah,
that
it
we
would be really
collect
easy.
are like mind-blowing, and I hope we always remember them. And it's good to share them with you because it helps kind of
Always.
refresh our brain about, oh my God, remember when? And sometimes we're like, oh, we're kind of like boring.
Okay, so I'm going to bore them a little bit longer because I'm not done with the demographics, because there's some interesting things about this country and those two islands. So the total population of Indonesia is a whopping 280 million people, and 152 of them million live on the big island of Java that we talked about.
Yeah.
And Java is about the size of the US state of Georgia, right? So imagine 152 million. I mean, the US, for US listeners and US familiar listeners,
Yeah.
the US is about 230 million. Imagine that 150 Americans live, 152
In Georgia.
in Georgia. So that's Java. And then for European focused people, that's also a landmass about the size of Ireland and Scotland combined with 152 million people.
Yeah.
And so then the little adorable, beautiful island of Bali that so many Western and other travelers love to travel
Lots
to
of Europeans are heading
have a
there.
population of 740 million people. So it's a tiny little island about the size of the US state of Rhode Island.
Did you say 740?
740,000, if I said, yeah,
You said million.
yeah, 740,000 people populating on Bali
Right.
in an area about the size of Rhode Island. Okay, so these are, while it's a vast archipelago country of 17,000 islands plus, those two islands are populous and quite small in certain relative ways.
And
now,
quite different as well, culturally.
Right, culturally. So one last little sort of like lesson in Paulie's geography school this morning is that across all of Indonesia, 87% of the people identify as Muslim. So on the island, 11% Christian, and then less than 10% Hindu, and less than 1% Buddhist across the entire country. But on the Java island, it's 96% Muslim, which is very unique. And then by contrast, while the whole country is only 2%, less than 2% Hindu, the island of Bali is where they all are, and it's 87% Hindu on Bali. So it's just this really invigorating mix of cultures and traditions.
So if you paid attention to Paul, the test will be emailed to you and it's multiple choice.
You know what? There's no test, but we thought that was a perfect context to sort of talk about our transition, because this is our first story in our recounting of our 1 month in Indonesia, is a recounting of the ferry crossing and our first day on Java. So we left the very western coast of Bali, and
In a lovely SUV.
right, we came from a
We're like,
five-star
whoa.
hotel. We'll tell you a little bit about it. That was our third naked hotel in northern Bali.
Surprise hotel.
Yeah, it was a surprise naked. And then we crossed crossed that little strait there. It's only about an hour to get across.
Yeah.
And then we end up in a rusty yellow tuk-tuk
Well,
on our way to the bus.
boy, you condensed that, because the whole ferry ride, it's like an angel said, cut through here, and everyone else was in line. So we were first on the ferry. We're just hanging out and secured a nice seat, and we transported across, and inside, as we were offloading, this young man who had a massage shirt on, and I think he just wanted to earn a few bucks, and he offered to carry our bag. Yes, offered to carry our bag off of the ferry. And so it's like, hell yeah, let's get some help. And you remember, we only travel now with one bag in Indonesia and Sri Lanka. Hallelujah. So he helps us carry the bag. He finds us a big guy who then leads us out to the street. And then Paul had referenced the yellow tuk-tuk submarine. And it's like the most ancient tuk-tuk I think we've ever been in.
Okay, but also let's also slow it down even a little bit more, because while we're on the ferry, we're waiting for it to leave from the Bali side. We're seeing other ships leave. We're like, it was a little bit confusing at that terminal about like which ship to get on, because they're like, they leave every 20 minutes. So we got on a boat, but it didn't leave for an hour. So our goal was to leave our Bali hotel, cross, do like about a 20 or 30-minute transit from the ferry on the other side to the bus terminal
20 minutes.
and catch a noon bus that was going to take us about a third of the way on beautiful bus tour across Eastern Java.
About 8.5 hours on bus.
Yeah, so it was going to be a long bus tour that started at noon. So the goal had been, because sometimes we don't want to make this too hard, and then we almost missed a plane one time in India. And so we've learned, we have a little video about that. And so we've sort of learned sometimes, like, do we need to go across the day before, stay near the bus terminal, make it easy on the old guys to actually achieve the noon delivery to start the bus tour. But we kind of assessed and decided, no, we could do it from all, like 30 minutes in the car to the ferry terminal in Bali, cross, then do a little terminal. I mean, in some places it would be like boom, boom, boom. In Japan, it would all just be like seamless, and you would hardly have to walk practically.
And there was an hour time change too.
And there was an hour time change, a kind of a graceful hour. So they were like an hour to our advantage time difference on the Java side. Well, we just barely we had 10 minutes to spare at the other end.
Okay.
So
are you going to run the video?
So we'll show you
this.
So, but I also want to just sort of recount an important element, which was that the young man on the ferry when we were getting off, and it was about as cacophonous as you might imagine 152 million people on the island might be at that ferry terminal, because it's a car, motorbike, people leaving the ferry, pedestrians leaving, motorbikes leaving, cars leaving, pedestrians coming on, bikes coming on, cars coming on, as it's sort of like in transit. So the fact that this young man just happened to, it seemed like it was a little bit of an afterthought on his part.
He's an angel. I keep saying,
was like,
these angels find us.
Do you want some help with your bag? And he quoted a very low price. We would not have made the bus if he had not just sort of serendipity.
Not even close.
Approached us, because he marched us off the ferry at like a lightning clip and got us to like the taxi stand, which I don't think we could have easily found, and onto this yellow tuk-tuk that went like no faster than second gear to get us to the bus terminal in time to catch this bus.
Plus, we're super tall, right? And we're like literally crunched down inside this yellow.
So
tuk-tuk.
here is a 1 minute
Yeah, this is the big guy that took us out
tuk-tuk
to
ride. You can see this,
catch
Nance?
ride.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, it's just 1 minute. So this is like he was like so friendly, everybody. Now notice the matching yellow banana shirt on our yellow tuk-tuk driver. We love this. And unfortunately, we've learned that the audio, when we play these little clips with you, doesn't really translate. But in the background,
I know,
yeah.
in the background, this was like the call to prayer. And so that just was a great send-off as we were like 20 minutes heading to the bus station. And, you know, again, Paul is taller than me and he's
Yeah.
like ducked down, squatting.
And I'm saying that we're going to make the bus. I didn't think we were going to make it. And
I'm like, Paul, you just have to trust the process. And he's like, do you think he really knows? And he's, you know, looking at his Google map and
I was
sees
hoping that we had the
buses.
right spot.
Yeah.
So anyway, this was our little,
I mean,
and of
look at
course,
the
every
interior.
car, every bike was going past us at a lightning clip. You can see people passing.
He had the repair tools, you know, in the console in between. I mean, we've done a lot of tuk-tuks.
Whoops, stop
Oh,
that.
stop that. Oh, you've got a
Oh,
video
that's
playing.
funny. Well, that's coming up.
That's a
Yeah, we can
teaser.
show that later.
That's
I
our
didn't even know.
favorite Indonesian
I didn't even know.
hotel.
I don't think they saw that. All right, do you see us, Nance?
Yep. See you
All right.
just fine.
Okay.
All right, good. So, you know, we arrive at the bus station, right? And I really had to pee bad. So I'm asking the driver. Paul finally tells me the bathroom is over there, and I hike off and I do my business and I come back and I'm hanging outside and Paul's already on the bus.
Yeah, no.
Ready to
Yeah,
go.
we didn't even know exactly like, where is this the bus station? It was very kind of bizarre. It was just going to be a place where the bus just pulled in, picked us up and left.
Yeah.
So with minutes to spare, we're finding like a couple guys in what I guess was the ticket office and finding out, no, we didn't need to convert our third-party voucher that we bought because the Indonesian bus websites were a little bit tricky to use in the native sort of, but there's a lot of third-party sources that sell these tickets. So I just wanted to make sure that we had what we needed to get on the bus. We did. So we found out where we had to wait. Rich found the bathroom. Yeah. And while he was at the bathroom, the bus came and they're like, come on, come on, come on. And so I'm like motioning to Rich to like hurry up. And so Rich had used the toilet. But I asked the driver, do I have time before the bus leaves for me to run and do the same thing? Oh, no.
Wouldn't let him
No,
go.
no, he wouldn't.
And really, he did have time.
So I
really
could have
did.
done it, but it was just, you know, that was sort
He
of
liked
like
me better, I think, Paul.
So that was the sort of the yellow tuk-tuk. So we went from this bucolic Bali, northern, you know, Bali's not very populated, to this teeming port on Java Island and caught our bus that took us, you know, to the second city of Jakarta, the second city of Indonesia, which is Surabaya.
So tell Nancy the experience when you then use the toilet on the bus.
Well, so then after a few minutes, I mean, it wasn't an emergency, but I was ready to go see Mr. Murphy and at the back of the bus. And it's kind of a weird, like sloshing bucket of water adjacent to the toilet, sort of.
Because you pour the water down
to flush it. So, you know, of course, I waited until we were on because we were leaving to a very mountainous area, very beautiful 8-hour tour that day on that bus to get to our destination. But so like sloshing water, and I am trying to avoid it while I'm doing my business. So it was quite
He comes out, it's just like, oh my God.
it wasn't the 5-star, we weren't in the 5-star resort anymore.
Your shoes were a
But
little
we love these contrasts, you know, we love these contrast days.
That bus ride, truly, Nancy, was one of the most beautiful bus rides. There's something, again, just about looking out the window as you are transporting anywhere, really. Road trips are just like a thrill for me. And so, you know, we were in the high country in East Java, and we would go, you know, these huge trees, and we were up in the coffee plantations. And so rice patties. I mean, it was just a day to always for me to remember.
Right. And of course, the Indonesian colonial period of the Dutch, they were the ones that brought the coffee plants there. And
Yeah.
it was them that sort of created the synonymous use sometimes
Yeah.
of coffee and Java, you know, the synonymous word exchange.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
And
Yeah,
you know,
so-
the coffee is grown under the shade of trees.
Right,
So
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like out in the full
No,
sun,
no.
like our wine is grown in Oregon, in, you know, the West.
So that's a little beginner story on Java.
Just-
Now we want
I
to.
just want to tell, like, the bus ride was like the most freezing ride we've ever experienced. And they played always the female artists singing very loudly for 8 hours. I think the last 20 minutes, they stopped the music. But oh my God, we had our headsets on. You know, he's trying to listen to a podcast. I'm listening to a book. And still that woman's voice was just like, woo. So it was a ride. Okay.
It was.
It was a ride.
I want to interrupt because
Yeah.
you're telling me that you got up, you got out of a hotel, you got onto a boat, then from the boat to the tuk-tuk, then to
Yeah.
the bus, and now you've got an 8-hour drive ahead of you.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm in Oregon, and right now we have 15 to 16 hours a day of daylight. What is the daylight situation? You're below the equator, right?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I was going to actually throw
Yeah.
that into my geography demographics
Ooh.
lesson. So yes, so that's
12,
one of the
12.
things that's nice about coming to Indonesia at this time of year, because basically we're like 6 to 9 with the two islands where we were are 6 to 9 degrees latitude south of the equator.
Okay.
Bali's capital is about 9 degrees. Jakarta is about 6 degrees south. So it's about 12-12.
Yeah.
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 So
Right.
of light and
You're
dark.
about even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did get to our hotel after dark. Yeah,
Yes,
we
we
arrived
did.
into Surabaya
Yeah.
after dark.
8:30.
So yeah, the whole time, I mean, even where we are here in Sri Lanka, it's
About
closer
12
to
and a half.
12. Yeah, it's a little closer to 12-12. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're right around the equator. So
But
yeah.
you know, Portland, by the way, I just read this, Nancy, that Portland is like, I think number 1 or 2 to have the most light at like 15 hours and 41 minutes at its peak in like, what is that, June 22nd, when you guys are endlessly bombed with light.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
United States. That's crazy to think it's Portland.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't quite understand how that's possible. I would think it
Yes.
would be Seattle.
Yeah, no.
So
No.
shall we pivot back to northern Bali and talk to you about
Yes.
so the Au Natural tour is the sort of the imprimatur that we've given to this particular tour.
Yeah, every tour.
With a goal of spending about a third of the time in exploring our naturism hobby.
Lifestyle is
a
what they call
lifestyle
it.
hobby. And so we found, and we'd known about one of these, it's actually gay-owned, straight-friendly, beautiful property on the northern shore of northern, northeastern Bali.
Where only 10% of the tourists actually make it up north. So that's the other piece about travel for us is like, now the South is very inundated with young travelers, and
Yeah.
it has been the case. And you know, and I think it annoys the locals. So that's not our scene.
It's not our scene. So we did spend a few days there, and there was actually another naturist place that we stayed that you can see on our website.
Yeah.
That's down there. That was great and convenient to the airport and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Beautiful.
Yeah.
But a little too much, not really what we were looking for on Bali this time. So we went north,
Yeah.
and we found it finally this place after, years of hearing about this kind of gay-owned place in the north.
Yeah, it's 23
It's
years
It
old.
was paradise.
A bit tired,
It's a
but
bit tired.
we didn't hear a sound. It's like no vehicles. It was just nature.
Bali Au Natural is
Yeah.
the name of it. And so it was the first of two
Loved it.
naturist places that we went to. They're close to each other. They're with 90 minutes driving
Yeah.
distance. So we
Yeah.
spent, what did we spend? A week or 10 days or something like that.
I think
Anyway,
yeah.
it seemed like it was a little timeless. So we were there for a wonderful time. They have 2 pools on the property, and you can see pictures on our website. We really hadn't queued up anything to show you.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to sort of highlight that place, but tell you a story about the second place that we stayed.
I just want to say this is the place where our other bags are in storage for
Yes.
85 days. They were so gracious to allow us to offload so many things because, we're traveling. We're not returning to the States until probably July 2025 is kind of our vision. So, you just get tired of hauling crap around that you don't need. So yes, then we had booked to return to this place like the 20th of July to be exact. And we're going to spend a few more weeks up there. I mean, for the value, food included, what we pay a day is like around $100 to live there. Yeah. And the people are delightful. So we get transported to the other in the neighborhood, let's just say it's 80, 90 minutes, as Paul said, it's called Bali Nature.
And it's in the village area of Lovina, North Bali, Lovina. And it's called Bali Nature. And we didn't really know much about it. Like the way it's a 4-room boutique hotel, just 4 rooms, with a pool that's kind of like
Lovely
on
pool.
a hillside that kind of looked over the rice paddies and the ocean
To
beyond.
the ocean, yeah.
And we thought it was owned by a Dutch woman. So I was kind of expecting this sort of young Dutch lady that owns this property.
I had read their website, Paul, so I had a little more
I had
information.
too, but we did learn a lot more about this beautiful family, Buddhist Indonesian family that runs this hotel that we absolutely fell in love with.
Love her. I mean, her name is Care. Okay. So here's a little quick backstory. When she was 5 years old, she worked the beach. She was selling food. She was selling little jewelry trinkets at 5. Okay. She came from a very poor rural family. And so here she is on the beach. This Dutch woman snaps her photograph, and then
on
that was
vacation.
it.
She's on holiday, like a lot of Europeans would go to Bali, still do, but back then.
20 years later, 20, this woman returns and she's carrying the photograph
Of the
around
5-year-old
on the
little
beach.
girl.
Do you know who this is? Do you know where I can find her? Where is she? Well, someone did recognize Care, and they said, well, she works as a cleaner in a hotel nearby. And the woman then finds her in the hotel, and she, long story short, says, I want to adopt your children. Single mom. And Care was like,
she has a boy and a girl.
she misunderstood, and she thought, well, yes, they're going to abduct my children and take them
To the Netherlands.
to the Netherlands. No,
that's not what she meant.
I want to help you. I want you to know that we're here to help educate your children. She had 2 kids, has 2 kids.
And then she asked her, what is your dream?
What's your dream job? What's your big dream? And Care said, I want to own my own business. So the family owned land already. Care has a couple brothers, I think 3 brothers. So this lovely Dutch family, who her website says they want to remain anonymous. They come now once a year, and they'll be here, I think, in July or something. And they always return, back to the family just to love on them. Like, who wouldn't? I mean, they're all like, I get goosebumps thinking how much love and care comes from Care. So
No, this story is unbelievable. You've really got to be kidding me. Are you
No,
sure this is
seriously,
true?
the hair is still standing on my arm.
It's the truth.
She is,
Wow.
she's like, it's very natural. And this was like a regular guest house kind of place. And there was a lot of competition. So they were struggling with the business.
Especially with COVID.
Yeah.
So they changed the format
A
recently.
year ago.
To in fact, the European lady, her friend, had suggested, there's kind of a niche travel market for naturists that seek out these places.
Right.
And like us and other people, and she knows from the Netherlands, a lot of Europeans as well.
And
So she changed her 4-room resort to differentiate herself a little bit from the competition in the neighborhood, because there's a lot of these little like homestays. They don't really call it a homestay, but it really became that. It was
I mean, the
wonderful.
cooking, her sister-in-law was like, you know, what do you want to have for dinner? And it's
So
like, how do you want your breakfast?
So I
it
don't
was
know, I don't know if you said this or not, but so with the help of the Dutch family and their participation financially, she and her family, her brothers,
Yeah.
their industriousness, they
Yeah.
built this hotel
Yeah.
and they opened it as a regular thing. And it
Yeah.
wasn't so many years, I guess, before COVID, which of course was really a challenge for many people.
And still is in many countries.
Yeah, and so they got through that. And so we show up for a 5-night stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And absolutely fell in love
With them.
So we
Yeah.
have a picture of them. The
So
whole family
Good.
that was taken when we left.
while you're doing that, I want to just say, you know, her perception of about being naked in their culture, especially growing up rural, she said there, I mean, it's obvious who the bright shining light is.
Can you see that, Nancy?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
very well.
So Kara's the gal in the lower left
Close
that's
to
got
Paul.
her thumb up.
Yeah.
Right.
Her sister-in-law is in the red.
Yes.
And her son, who's helping with the business right now, he's 21 years old.
No, I think he's 24 or 5 now.
He's the guy that's got the peace symbol up. And then his wife is
in the blue dress.
She doesn't look it, but she's 9 or 8 months pregnant there.
Just had a baby.
In fact, we've been in touch with them since we left, and her baby was delivered.
Pasek sent us a message right away
Yeah.
and said the baby is here.
Pasek is the son's name, and Kara is the mom's name.
So anyway, Kara was telling me that, you know, being naked is very natural in that culture, and that, you know, we come into the world without clothing, and as you die in Bali, you are laid out on a bed of palm leaves, branches, and the people in the community
Naked.
come to see you naked. And so in her mind, when the Dutch says you should open a naturist resort, it just all kind of connected that this is very natural. And so that was another layer about their death care. And Nancy and I have a shared interest in kind of returning to the ways our ancestors used to care for the body upon death. So that, I know you would love to hear that story. So Care, like immediately, she was a sister that I felt like I knew before. And I'm so excited to return.
So the name of that place is Bali Nature, and it's the word nature with no E, and you'll find it. It's Lovina, Bali.
Yeah.
And
very near this fabulous Buddhist.
Yeah, the biggest Buddhist temple. And remember, Buddhism is a very small percentage overall in not only on Bali, which is mostly Hindu.
Yeah, and you can find
it's
that.
a beautiful Buddhist.
Stunning.
Yeah.
So many water features, and we have that on our Facebook at Global Hotel Guys. So all those images I know you've seen, and many other people, but seriously, one of the most Zen kind of energy, and water does that, you know, it just was like, we were hot that day. It was like, I don't know, 1 PM, but I'm so glad. And I want to return when we're spending more time with them in, I think it's early August.
Right, we're going back for a week. We actually, after Bali Au Natural, they had sold out a week for some event.
Yeah.
And so we had to leave. I mean, we just were going to stay there. But we jumped at the chance to go back to Bali Nature, just 90 minutes away for another week. So we'll see them again, see the new baby, check in with the family. Like, we're kind of old friends now.
Yeah, so Paul's like, we got to go shopping for them.
Yeah, we have to take little gifts. But so the other thing I want to just mention is that we showed up and it was like, I think it's about 90 euros or $100 a day, including breakfast was the way that it was sold. And when we get there, she's like, oh, I just feed everybody dinner too. So it's breakfast and dinner for about $100 a day, which is, you know, on par with what, you know, the value of the other place too.
Yeah.
Great deal for us and a great deal for a Western traveler. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, we really encourage you to take the Hotel Guys Northern Bali Naked Suite.
And support these people. I mean, it
Yeah,
is like you
for
just, everyone that we've met online are people who've returned. they're like, we love her. We love,
Yeah, everybody
so,
loves care.
you
So then we want to tell you just briefly about, and then we're going to pivot to the next story because we have time.
where are we going?
Well, we're going to go to our third hotel, which is also about another hour or so, because our whole plan had been, well, let's just do this exploration of northern Bali for the first time, because we'd been to Bali before, 11 years before that, but we'd never really gone north. So, but we were headed to the ferry to get over to Java to do the things that we'll tell you about when we pivot to back to Java. But we did, like we said, got out of that 5-star hotel, and this was this amazing place that we were just going to spend a few days. It's in
3 nights in
and
a hot springs.
but we ended up doing like a fancy private room with 2 of our own pools. So with complete privacy. So we realized, oh my God, it's another naked place where we can just enjoy these 2 pools, one
Just
hot, one
Locked
cold.
the gate, and it
And-
was our place, and it was a beautiful, beautiful property.
And with a beautiful room service menu. So we took our dinner in the room a couple of nights and then had
Yeah,
dinner in the resort a couple of nights. We had to put our clothes
the
on for
buffet
that.
was underwhelming, but the place was fabulous. And
Really nice.
This is quickly, Paul, because I know we have so
Mimpy.
much to.
That name of that third place is Mimpy, and it's not a naked place.
It's
but-
dream. It
But
means
if you
dreams.
book
Mimpy.
if you book the private jacuzzi, yada, yada, yada suite, and they have a lot of those actually on the property,
Yeah.
then if you're interested in that, you
Yes.
can enjoy those
It's
pools
fabulous.
that way.
So I got a free massage. It was like part of the deal. And then we both had massages, and Paul wanted to do the singing bowls massage.
Yeah, vibrational medicine therapy, which is not a typical, I've never really seen that on a resort spa menu before. So I jumped at the chance to do that.
So he comes back to the room after that experience, and I'm like, he jumps into the nice hot little pool that we had, and I had my phone, and I'm like, tell me what happened. So I just shot this quick 1-minute video, and I think,
We
a
put
couple
it up
days
on
ago,
YouTube.
it's like almost like, let's just call it viral for us, because it's like pushing 5,000 people who have viewed this 1-minute video of Paul talking about the singing bowl experience that he had. Do you have any other kind of vibe that?
Well, I'll just
that
say
did
that
for
what
you?
that actually was they put the bowls like on my back and on my chest when I turned over, and even on the palms of my hands, and just infused my energy system with the different tones that, the gong singing bowls, the Eastern religious bowls, that resonance that those sounds make depending on their size, bronze, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that's what the therapy was. And I had that in corporation with a 90-minute massage or something. It was quite
He was altered.
luxurious.
He was just
Yeah, it
kind
was
of
really nice.
glowy, altered. And after I shot the video later, he's like, "Oh, I could have said so much more."
Well,
And it's like,
yeah. And vibrational
drawn to that.
medicine, I mean,
Now I am.
light and sound medicine therapy is the way of the future. There's no doubt based on what we know. I mean, hello, magnetic resonance, we're already using it with MRI and CT scans.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's coming, it's evolving, and there's a
Yeah.
lot more to it, and there's a lot more science to it, and it's
Didn't they do it on your feet even too?
yeah, they put the bowls on the bottom of the feet and bang the bowls, and it sort of sends this sort of like centering thing. But that's not even on our outline.
Well, and I immediately think, Nancy, those of us that know Paul's injury in Japan, right? So he had a month of like severe shit going down with his back injury from the luggage.
True.
So we get into Bali, and it's just like, we saw a chiropractor a couple times, and then it was like things just cleared. So I think, the singing bowls kind of sang him out of Bali, and his body is back to his regular kind of energetic. So it's,
Yay.
I know, and I've never seen him like that. So we're very grateful. Okay, now you can talk.
No, that's good. I am grateful, and it's fun
Yeah.
to like admire that sort of Bali experience so
Yeah.
much so, and it's very affordable, which is why it's a very popular place in the world for a lot of travelers. And we're going back. So we
Yeah.
realized that before we get to Thailand, we're gonna go back to Bali for
I already
maybe
talked about this.
45 days.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't say
And
45
pick
days.
up our luggage at the other place where we left 2 bags instead. I think it'll be about 45 days that we actually go back. Kind of a down low sort of rest and relaxation and wait for north of the equator to stop raining in the Thailand area.
I told Paul, it's like, I've already shown all these pictures of nature, yada, yada, at these places. I like, do I go black
Yeah, just
in
get dark.
social media?
We
And
can-
then, no, I decided, hey, we're going to do kind of the best of our hotel guys' life experiences during that interim
Well, it could be
period.
just for the best of for the last 8 or 9 years.
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, but in the meantime, we're going to use the rest of this time to talk about the largest Buddhist temple on Java. And in fact, in the world, it's the largest Buddhist temple in the world.
Yeah.
It's a place called, it's in the region that's called, what's called the special region of Yogyakarta or Jogja in regular sort of Indonesian sort of slang. Jogja is on
Borobudur.
it's on the southern coast of Java, and nearby there's this temple called Borobudur. It's quite a mouthful. Borobudur.
And there's 3 of them that are all aligned. You know, the other 2 are small when we saw both of them.
Right. I mean, that alignment happens to be very similar in alignment to the suspected alignments in Mexico and in Egypt of the Orion's belt and the night
Oh.
sky, the Orion constellation. A part of that constellation, there's 3 stars that are mostly aligned, that are indicative of the way that the Giza pyramids are laid out. And then the same alignment is seen in Mexico and in, I think, Peru and other places. So, of course, this is sort of part of our Discover tour. So it was very cool to go to the Borobudur temple structure. And if you look at it from above, which of course we're assuming that in ancient times nobody did, but it looks like what we are familiar with the Tibetan monks doing with mandalas.
Yeah.
When they do the little mandala painting with the beautiful colored sand,
Right.
create that art and then sweep it away as a reflection of the Buddhist notion of ashes to ashes, dust to dust in the West, so that life is transient. So this structure is big, and we were there for 2 days.
Well, here's the
We went
thing.
for 2 days.
We did, and we could not get our tickets to go do the climb to the top, okay? Which, until you get up there, you don't realize how massive that is. But on our first day, and it was hot.
So we had
as
the
could be.
tickets to do the climb the second day. It's not a massive climb, but you go up with a group. They limit the number of people that are there. So we had to, which was fine. We were there.
120 an hour, maybe 150.
And it wasn't overly, it's not like going to the Acropolis in Athens.
No, it wasn't Siem Reap with, you know, dozens of buses. So we go the first day, we get dropped off, and we just wandered the area and just kind of lay of the land. And, you know, we walked around the temple, and we met lovely students who were interviewing us, and we just had a delightful experience. Then again, the teacher and me, we do the 2 museums, and we walk through the museums, and just like we always say, we spend more time than other people in there. And so we're pre-teaching is what we would call it. We're front loading information. You know, you can read about this stuff online, obviously, but to just walk in and experience in a museum, we did all of that. And so then we exited. Most people, I think, just are like too hot and tired after they do the climb.
It was
so
hot.
they missed that piece, the museum piece. And I think you have to have a guide when you do the temple experience. So
Right.
he taught us then a
Oh,
third
right.
layer on the second day. It wasn't quite as hot. Thank you, Buddha.
So there we are at Borobudur. You can see this, Nancy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So you can get a scale of the people in the picture. And this is on 3 different levels. And gosh, now I hadn't thought about this for a while. These levels reflect sort of like the human experience of a lower energetic reality, sort of a heart middle area level
Kind of an
reality.
awakening to-
And then the very top, so the bottom two layers are all angular. Formless, and nirvana. I think maybe those were one way to think of the
at the
three.
top.
So at the top are circular structures. So there are,
That gives you perspective of seeing this man standing.
and there are these friezes that are stone, kind of like what we saw in Siem Reap in
And
Cambodia.
these were uncovered as they had to do some structural work.
Oh yeah, this whole thing was lost. There's Rich step back looking at
I'm
it.
reading.
And so this is the mandala.
fundamental.
So right, this whole structure is this mandala-like structure, 3 layers. And then there we are at the very top.
Well, not quite, Paul, because the very, very top is only reserved for the Buddhist monks. So
Yeah,
this is really the second level for us.
right.
Um,
But that's a cool picture.
yeah,
And so that's from the second day after we'd been to the museums and we had sort of acquainted ourselves a little bit more with the history.
yeah.
But there were other cool things to see because this, like we said, this alignment, and these are some of the kids that were there on the first day that
Yeah.
would stop us and they wanted to practice their English and learn about who we were. And so they were doing this with a lot of people. That's one of my favorite pictures from the one side
Yeah,
that really shows the very top of it.
yeah.
As well. So that's Borobudur, which is the largest Buddhist temple in the world, which is a very cool thing to, and this is on an island that's 96% Muslim. So,
Another group of students. They're also delightful. They're like middle school kids and high school kids. So I'm right up my alley. And, our
so
friend,
was I. It
our-
was great.
yeah, our friend,
And-
kind of describes us as ambassadors.
There we are in the museum where they
Yeah.
had taken some of the relics that were seen. But this entire facility had been like for so many of these places kind of are the quote unquote forgotten to history for so long and then rediscovered in a more modern period.
So
And
we-
when was that built?
oh my God,
Was
is
it
that 12?
12th? Yeah, it's
12th
similar.
century.
Yeah, it was just, I know it was a little bit before. I think it was 11th because it was yeah, go
Yes.
ahead. Do you want to?
Well, so we were told that it was built by the guys that actually then went onward to Siem Reap
Yeah, so
in
this-
Cambodia
so
to
this-
build all of that.
Yeah, so the same cultural
complex.
impulse,
Yeah.
impulse
Yeah,
that had built Siem Reap, some of those people came from this region.
no, they went up to Siem Reap after
Right, they
this
came
was done.
from the Java region.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of them went on to Bali and to other places.
Well, and we were out in the country at Villa Borodoro.
Oh, the
and
resort where we were was
Again, that's
ridiculous.
really kind of our high favorite. I mean, it's just over the top in art
All
and
right,
beauty.
we're gonna show you
and,
just a couple pictures.
Again, Facebook, Global Hotel Guide.
So this is our room that we stayed in. This hotel, it was also only a handful. That's the lobby area.
Oh, and we met this most delightful gay couple from Australia, Scott and David, who, they were sitting at the other table. Not many other people were there at the time. I think it was just the 4 of us. And we just engaged in travel conversations. And again, it's just like anytime you meet other travelers, everyone has recommendations. And they were super delightful, and I hope we get to see them again. Look at that bathtub.
It was a tricked out
It's-
room.
It's serious.
Oh my God, that room is absolutely
Look at-
mind-boggling.
There's the money shot.
Yeah. I mean, the tile floor, the art paintings on the wall, they're not framed pictures behind the bed. They're painted. The ceiling, I mean, it's teak wood.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it looked down across to
Crazy.
Borobudur in the
Yeah,
distance.
At night, you could see
So we
the
could
temple
see
lit
the
up.
temple. So that was a really fantasy
Big
thing. And,
swimming pool.
we took the train into Yogyakarta.
Yeah.
The Borobudur facility is about an hour and a half west of that town. So we weren't really in the town. We really decided to stay out near the temple, and that was really a smart
15 minutes
choice.
we were back down into the temple.
So that was
good
one of the,
location.
that's the
Great
highlight.
staff.
So that's the highlight
Love
that
it.
from Java. We're going to show you one more picture and say goodbye.
Are we?
Uh-huh.
Oh, but the Buddhist temple was another like surprise that no one was visiting there. And so we were going actually to this second temple, and then we find the Buddhist monastery. And that is, I think
So there were other things to explore in the area.
we did a day
But
trip.
one of the things, Nancy, that we wanted to do on Java, it was one of our main destinations, and it was a little bit of a carryover from maybe before I share this.
To discover.
Yeah, before I share this, I'll just do a little, okay, stop it.
You stop it. Yeah.
So
We're geeks. We like old things.
Netflix.
Oh.
One of the very kind of controversial but very popular series of the last year was a British independent researcher journalist by the name of Graham Hancock. Some people listening will know exactly who that guy is. Did a series, has written a lot of books that have woken up a lot of people to a new way of looking at world history.
Yeah.
And he did a series called Ancient Apocalypse, which was a multiple episode series, which made a lot of mainstream archaeologists' heads exploded. They actually tried to get the Netflix series removed from
That's right.
the airways.
Yeah.
But episode 1 of this 8, I think, part series is about this special mysterious place on Java Island. It's a mouthful. It's called Gunung Padang. And in local slang and terminology, it means mountain of enlightenment. We have an extensive webpage about that. And so those people whose ears pricked up when we went to Peru, or whose ears pricked up when we went to Egypt,
or
whose
Turkey.
ears pricked up when we went to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey,
beyond,
will want to go to our hotelguys.com website, and under our favorites tab, or actually under our grand tours tab, we have a whole thing about the Gunung Padang controversy,
including the link to.
But we're going to show, including a lot of information about a great YouTube video to watch. We're going to show you one picture and say goodbye.
Are we?
Yes.
I don't ever like to say goodbye to Nancy.
I know, but we have to.
All right, what do you got?
So this is our page, but we're going to just sort of show you this picture. And I took it as a screenshot from Graham's Ancient Apocalypse Netflix series. And this is the approximation of the underground chambers and pathways that a bunch of geologists in a peer-reviewed scientific way deduced is there under this mountain. And we climbed to the top of this mountain. It's actually a very small mountain.
It was easy to climb. They really did a nice job of laying out stairs and hand railings. So of all the places that we've climbed before, that was like
so
not bad.
We went out of our way.
And it's smaller than it looks.
Yeah, we went out of our way to do an all-day trip from one location on Java. We hired a driver to take us to this place.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, and to take us to Gunung Padang, and we climbed to the top of these terraces. Back to Nancy?
Back to Nancy.
So that's that, and it was a very special day, which is too complex and too much detail.
Well, I mean, we arrived, there were 2 men up on top, and
There's
then
nobody
a tour
there.
guide.
There's nobody there.
Nobody really goes there. I mean, it was a hell of a ride to get there for one thing. And again, we like road trips. We like looking out the window, and we discovered we were up in the tea region, which we love tea. So if you do, hotelguys.com, you can find where we've been in Sri Lanka in the past in the tea zone, and in India in the south and in the north in the tea zone. So that was just like another layer of bonus, but we're here in the top. And then ultimately those 2 men left, and it was just Paul and me. And
on this ancient site, which has been tested, parts of it test to 1,500 years old. Parts of it underneath using geophysical testing.
22 to 27.
6,500 years old.
Yeah.
And they did one core and went down and found a way to determine, and this is really the most controversial part, which to me, okay, fine, it's controversial, but don't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. There's something about that tests to 22 or 27,000 years old.
Yeah.
And there's some controversy if that actually includes human activity or not.
It looks like the mountain exploded, right? But all these columny kind of What is the stone? It looks like a basalt.
It's basalt, natural basalt, but it's not in natural formation. So it's been placed there by people over the years. It's just one of the mysterious places, enough so that a guy like Graham Hancock devoted episode 1 of his Ancient Apocalypse Netflix series.
Yeah.
So that was something that really had our interest on our exploration of Java. And that concludes our little podcast about our time in Indonesia.
And we got a lovely note from a guy who was heading that direction, and
Yeah.
Paul and I were giving him tips. And so he, again, it's kind of a process to get there and to make it all happen. And
But
so
we're so glad we did. And it was
Yeah.
sort of like a little bit of an echo from our Discover tour last year when we did all that other stuff, Egypt, Turkey, and all the rest, Peru.
woo,
Do you have any questions?
Wow. Whew.
I love how it does. Do you have any questions?
It's like taking a history class in 60 minutes. You guys
Yeah.
cover a lot of territory.
But we try to be
Well-
prepared when we're going to talk to you, Nancy.
Well, it's fabulous.
I
It's
mean, Paul is
really
a
fabulous.
geek on all of this stuff. So I really appreciate how we both have these passions, and then he's
Yes.
just absorbing all this information, and then he feeds me something to watch, and then it's like, oh, you've got to read this piece. And so
Well, we really feed each other
yeah,
because
I find things about ruins that, like in Egypt, there's another big discovery of caverns under like a cemetery burial region, right? So it's like people are really discovering and finding
and
a
we're
lot more information
yeah,
than
and-
what we assume we get taught.
Well, and I find that some of the stuff that feels like that's new discoveries, it's that this stuff has been known before, but there's sort of like this resistance to work it into our history books and to work it into the way that we see the world around us.
Yeah, the battle
Right.
between archaeologists and geologists and people who think they have the
And-
answer,
And geneticists.
it
and-
becomes almost like culty religion, like in their narrow box thinking, and they really need to read and listen to each other.
Right,
And
and-
many of them are.
And, we don't, we don't, who knows who has all the answers, but we know that the world around us is sort of expanding as we take on a more galactic, some of us just live in our little town, but depending on how wide of a perspective you want to take around the world, about the world around you, now we've got like, what's the telescope that's out and showing us
Yeah,
amazing
The
pictures?
Hubble.
The Hubble. And so, it's just like how big of a perspective on the world can we take? So that.
Well, I'm curious, did you watch that Netflix series that
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned?
Yeah.
And what's the name of it again?
Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And I believe it's an 8-part series, and each series kind of takes you to a different part of the world and introduces you to some alternative ideas that are not all harebrained, okay? They're science-based, and there's some reason that he's including them. He's a serious guy. A journalist by trade who has written a lot of books. And if you open that Pandora's box, you can explore some amazing books that he's also written about underwater archaeology around.
Don't you just love him?
I absolutely love both of you.
Oh,
I love you
And I
too.
love the fact that, you're so curious, because that to me is that's it doesn't matter what the subject is.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
me, it's like if somebody's really into it, I'm all ears,
Right.
because I think so much like you do that nobody has a lock on the exact understanding of where we've come from and what existed way before written history.
yeah.
And that to me is absolutely fascinating.
Right. I mean, I just read something last night about deep in the earth, in layers of coal that are being that have been excised for burning. I don't know if
Yeah.
this was in China, are like gold coins with like inscriptions that they don't know what any of it means. And I mean, coal is
Huh.
coal. And I mean, I've heard about some of these places deep in California during the time of gold digging, that they found some really weird stuff. So like how deep do you want to go?
Well, I know, I could, okay,
So we have to say goodbye.
but there's so much we could say. Thank you again.
Oh, Absolutely.
being
My
here.
pleasure. My
Oh,
pleasure.
brilliant.
And I just think it's hysterical that you've got like postcards from the grocery store in photo frames behind you. It's like,
Absolutely, right? I know it's well, but we're actually on
We'll
the,
talk about this, our month in Sri Lanka on our next
yeah,
conversation.
we're on the eastern, northeastern shore of Sri Lanka, kind of
Yes.
looking across over at Myanmar and into the Bay of Bengal and to Bangladesh.
Yeah,
And when we,
Yeah.
yeah, so we
the
will.
other wall has dolphins jumping.
So the next
Yeah.
time, the next time that we get together, it may very well be to talk about our month in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, because
oh,
this month,
that
then
will be
off
wonderful.
to a month in India, in Chennai.
Yeah, I'm
and that
really
may-
excited. We're going to a spiritual community of Oroville, just south of Chennai and Tamil Nadu. Near the last time we did this, I forgot the name of the town, and I'm forgetting it again.
Yeah,
The French enclave of south of Tamil
Well, that'll be like going back home again, right?
yes, yeah, it's sort of, it's gonna feel that way. I'm looking forward to some good chai tea.
Yes, and always
Yeah.
some good Indian food.
And
Always.
are you going to Myanmar?
No,
No, it's
anymore.
not safe.
It's not.
It's still not safe.
Yeah,
huh?
I'm so I relish. I mean, that
That's another
Myanmar is, I don't know, I've got some kind of ancient connection with Myanmar. We've been twice, and boy, I relish every bit of it. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's at
we have,
hotelguys.com.
yeah, and actually, I'm gonna foreshadow something for the few people that are still listening. That I have
They
a
watch.
story. I have a story. I have a story that I want to share with people. I actually need people's help. So, but I'm not quite ready. I'm putting it together in my mind, in my head, in my heart, and in my mouth. So stay tuned, and I have I need some help.
Ooh, that's a
You
nice,
have lots of people here more than ready, willing, and able.
Yeah.
bless you.
So I'm still putting it together. So love
right.
you, Nancy, and
Love you guys. Love you
thank you
guys
so
so
much.
much. Love what you're doing and taking us with you. It's fabulous.
It's our
have a
pleasure.
wonderful summer now that you've had Memorial Day.
And all the light, may it shine on
yeah,
you.
all
Yes.
6
Yeah.
or whatever you're getting.
Yeah.
It's just too much, way too much light.
Have a
Not
good,
for you, not for you.
until next time.
All right. Bye-bye.